The atomic bomb. This is where everything began. The term atomic bomb refers broadly to any weapon that releases energy through nuclear fission, the splitting of atoms, but it is most commonly used to describe the first generation of nuclear weapons developed during World War II. The United States, through the Manhattan Project, assembled some of the world's leading physicists in a race to build a working device before Nazi Germany could do the same. The result was tested in the New Mexico desert in July 1945, and within weeks, 2 bombs had been dropped on Japan. The world has never looked at warfare the same way since.
The gun-type bomb. This was the simpler of the 2 designs produced during the Manhattan Project, and it worked almost exactly as the name suggests. A conventional explosive propels one piece of enriched uranium down a tube into another, combining them into a critical mass that triggers an uncontrolled chain reaction. Little Boy, dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, used this method. Despite its historical significance, the gun-type design is considered the least efficient nuclear weapon ever built. It requires enormous amounts of uranium and produces a relatively modest yield for its size. No nation is known to have built one since.
The Implosion-Type Bomb. Developed in parallel with the gun-type design, this approach solved the efficiency problem in a fundamentally different way. Precision-shaped conventional explosives arranged around a plutonium core detonate simultaneously, compressing the core from every direction at once and forcing it into a critical state. Fat Man, dropped on Nagasaki on August 9, 1945, used this design. It proved far more versatile and efficient than the gun type, and virtually every nuclear weapon built after World War II traces its core design back to this same principle. The engineering challenge of making all the explosives fire at exactly the same instant was enormous and took years to solve. The boosted fission bomb. This design takes the implosion concept a step further by injecting a small amount of hydrogen isotopes, deuterium and tritium, into the core at the moment of detonation. The fusion reaction that briefly occurs does not produce most of the explosion's yield directly, but it releases a surge of neutrons that dramatically increases the efficiency of the fission chain reaction. The result is a weapon that produces far more energy from the same amount of fissile material. Boosted fission bombs became the standard design for most nuclear warheads from the 1950s onward because they allow powerful weapons to be made smaller and lighter, which matters enormously for missiles and aircraft delivery systems. The hydrogen bomb. This was the weapon that made everything before it look small. A hydrogen bomb, or thermonuclear bomb, uses a fission bomb as a trigger to compress and heat hydrogen isotopes to the point where nuclear fusion occurs, releasing energy on a scale that fission alone cannot approach. The United States tested its first true hydrogen bomb in 1952 with a yield that vaporized an entire island in the Pacific and left a crater over a mile wide. The Soviet Union followed the following year. These weapons are measured in megatons, millions of tons of TNT equivalent, and a single one can destroy a major city entirely. They represented a fundamental shift in what nuclear weapons were capable of. The 2-stage thermonuclear bomb. This is the refined, mature version of the hydrogen bomb and the design used in essentially all modern large-yield nuclear weapons. It consists of 2 physically separate components, a primary fission stage and a secondary fusion stage, housed together in a single casing. The primary detonates first, and the energy it releases, in the form of X-rays traveling at the speed of light, compresses and ignites the secondary stage before the weapon even begins to physically explode. This sequential staging is what allows yields to reach the megaton range and beyond. The Tsar Bomba, the most powerful weapon ever detonated, was a 3-stage version of this design, with a yield of approximately 50 megatons. The Neutron Bomb. Where most nuclear weapons are designed to destroy everything in range, the neutron bomb was designed with a specific and controversial purpose: kill people while leaving buildings and equipment relatively intact. It achieves this by suppressing the blast and heat output and maximizing the release of high-energy neutrons, which are lethal to living organisms but do not cause the same physical destruction as a conventional nuclear detonation.
The United States developed it during the Cold War as a potential counter to Soviet tank formations in Europe, since the radiation could kill tank crews without destroying the surrounding infrastructure. Public reaction when the program became widely known was intensely negative, and it was never deployed in large numbers.
The salted bomb. This is a theoretical weapon that has never been built or tested, but its concept has been seriously discussed among nuclear strategists for decades. A salted bomb is a nuclear weapon packed with a specific material, cobalt is the most commonly cited, that becomes intensely radioactive when exposed to neutron bombardment during the explosion. The result would be a weapon designed not primarily to destroy a city with blast and heat, but to blanket a vast area with long-lasting radioactive fallout, rendering it uninhabitable for years or even decades. Some analysts during the Cold War described a sufficiently large salted bomb as a potential doomsday weapon. No nation has officially confirmed developing one.
The dirty bomb. This is not a true nuclear weapon, and that distinction matters. A dirty bomb combines conventional explosives with radioactive material, not weapons-grade uranium or plutonium, but material that can be found in hospitals, industrial facilities, or research laboratories. When it detonates, it spreads radioactive contamination over the surrounding area. The immediate casualties would come from the explosion itself, not from nuclear yield, but the psychological impact and the cost of decontaminating an affected area could be enormous. Security agencies around the world rank it among the most credible nuclear threats from non-state actors, precisely because the materials required are far more accessible than those needed for a real nuclear bomb.
The mini-nuke. The miniaturization of nuclear weapons was one of the defining engineering challenges of the Cold War arms race. As delivery systems became more sophisticated, both the United States and the Soviet Union worked to make warheads smaller, lighter, and more compact without sacrificing yield. The result was a range of devices small enough to be fired from artillery, carried in a backpack, or launched from short-range missiles. The American W-54 warhead, for example, weighed less than 23 kilograms and could still produce a nuclear detonation. These weapons raised serious strategic questions about the line between nuclear and conventional warfare, since their small size made them feel more usable, which many considered deeply dangerous.
The ICBM Warhead. The intercontinental ballistic missile changed the geography of nuclear war entirely. A warhead mounted on an ICBM can travel from one continent to another in approximately 30 minutes, flying through space along a ballistic arc before re-entering the atmosphere at enormous speed. Modern ICBM warheads are compact, hardened against the stresses of re-entry, and designed to survive decades of storage while remaining reliably functional. Many missiles carry multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, meaning a single launch can direct separate warheads towards several different cities simultaneously. The existence of these systems on both sides is the technical foundation of mutually assured destruction, the logic that has kept nuclear weapons from being used in war for over 70 years.
The tactical nuclear weapon. Not every nuclear weapon was designed to end civilization. Tactical nuclear weapons were built for use on an actual battlefield against troop concentrations, supply depots, naval vessels, or military installations, rather than against cities and civilian populations. They exist in a wide variety of forms, from short-range missiles and aircraft-delivered bombs to nuclear artillery shells and depth charges. During the Cold War, NATO and the Soviet Union decoyed thousands of them across Europe, prepared for a potential ground war that never came. Their strategic value has always been debated because even a small nuclear detonation carries a serious risk of escalation. A significant number remain in active service around the world today.